The Big Show.
All right, Ross, we'll start with last night. An unprecedented situation during Monday Night Football as the game was postponed after Bills safety Damar Hamlin suffered cardiac arrest after a big collision in the first half.
Right. So let's start. We're recording this at 6:55 a.m. Eastern time right now. So we'll just start with what we know, and that's from statements from the NFL or the Buffalo Bills or Jordan Rooney, who is Damar Hamlin's close friend and marketing rep. So what we know is that Damar suffered cardiac arrest on the field last night, and that he was put in an ambulance. They performed CPR. They had to bring out the AED. Jordan Rooney is the one that said that his vitals were back to normal. He is in critical condition at University of Cincinnati Hospital. I am not in any way a medical expert. I would say, based on Dr. Chow's exuberance about the vitals being back to normal, that and about them saying he had a pulse, that was highly encouraging. I've had other doctors that are friends of mine that say, any type of situation like this, putting them to sleep for 24 hours and having them intubated for breathing is sort of standard operating procedure in a situation like this. And the fact that they got the heart back in rhythm. Essentially, I've had several doctors text me that given what could have happened, they feel much better as a result of the information that we have so far. So that's that part of it. It's interesting because I do this for a living and you guys watch or listen or whatever, and we think it's so important. It's Bills, Bengals, game of the year, number one seed in the AFC, maybe the division championship for the AFC North. And we hype it up, and it's such a big deal, and we care so much about it, and maybe rightfully so. But then something like this happens, and you realize how unimportant all those things really are. I mean, they all just feel like pomp and circumstance, like fluff, to be honest, when a situation with a young man potentially losing his life and the seriousness of the situation that we all sort of recognized last night, all the other things, the game, the standings, the seating, all the other stuff that we spend so much time talking about, I'm not going to say it seems meaningless, but it certainly is very clear the lack of significance that it really has in our lives. And it probably shouldn't take a situation like this for us to realize that. But for whatever reason, sometimes it does. My initial reaction when Damar Hamlin went down, I guess, I saw that he was down in the field. And there's such a default reaction to worry about head, neck, and spine stuff that when they showed the video of him getting up and then going down, I initially thought, well, it's not any type of paralysis situation because he got up. And I don't know if he had a concussion or if he fainted or what happened, but I actually was feeling okay about it. Then he was down, and they showed the players' faces, and you could see they were petrified. And then Joe Buck said they had been doing CPR for the last two commercial breaks. And then you knew, wow, this is different. This is something well beyond the scope of injury that happens when you're playing the sport of football. Well beyond the scope of that. I always tell people when they ask me, about what it's like in the locker room before a game, and a lot of times it's pretty quiet. And it seems like, I'm not going to say all, but most guys say a prayer to themselves. I know I did, right? And I said the same prayer before every game my entire career, which is, dear Lord, I'm not asking for you to help me to play better. I'm not asking for you to help us to win the game. I'm just asking if you can protect everybody that takes that field today from any type of serious injury that can affect the rest of their lives. Because you're cognizant of that as a player, right? Something like that could happen. We grew up with guys like Mike Utley from the Lions and Dennis Byrd from the Jets being paralyzed and losing the ability to walk as a result of things that happened on the football field. So, especially at the pro level, you acknowledge that that's a very real thing that could happen. And so that's the only thing I prayed for before every single game my entire career. I think it goes without saying that they made the right decision not to try to play. There are differing reports about, the NFL telling the teams they have 5 minutes to warm up or whatever, and then they were going to try to play. Troy Vincent, a former teammate of mine with the Buffalo Bills, by the way, has denied that. I don't really think that that should be where the focus is. I don't really know if that's true or not, but I think I just don't have time or inclination for the outrage, right? Like, I'm concerned about Damar Hamlin. And so that's where my thoughts are. I don't really believe that the NFL thought they were going to play a football game while a guy was suffering from cardiac arrest or could potentially be in a situation where he loses his life, right? Like, they're not that tone deaf. You can't have guys trying to play in a game and or playing a game if something like that were to happen. That would have been absolutely disastrous. And so, no matter what the right answer was, no matter what happened, they obviously made the right decision not to play. I think the game should probably be ruled a no contest. It's just not a win. It's not a loss. I guess that essentially makes it like a tie, a draw, so to speak, in the standings, which gives the Bengals, I guess, the division championship. And puts the Bills behind the Chiefs in terms of the number one seed. None of that's fair, but special situations call for special circumstances. And I just don't see how any other way they could try to play another football game tonight or tomorrow night or whatever, and then play another one on Sunday. That does not seem reasonable or logical to me. So what I know about Damar Hamlin is he's a Pittsburgh Central Catholic kid. I watched him play in high school. I don't think I called any of his state championship games, but I certainly watched him maybe his junior year or senior year when they played Parkland in the 4A state championship. He's a 24-year-old young man from Pittsburgh, went to Pitt, and probably like a lot of people, all I could think about last night was a few things. I thought about how glad I am that I don't play anymore and talked to my wife about that. I talked about how thankful I am that I didn't suffer a devastating injury of any kind that would affect the rest of my life. Certainly, I herniated a disc in my neck and bruised my spinal cord, which ended my career, but I can walk and I can live a functioning life moving forward. I thought about Damar and his mom a lot. They referenced his mom was there, and I just cannot imagine what that situation would be like for a parent. I think it's natural. I started thinking about my mom and everything and how she would be in that situation, and hard to even go there. Then you think about I think about my daughters and start praying for them, and hopefully that I make the right decisions as a dad to put them in the right situations in life. You have a lot of things that go through your head when a situation like that happens, and ultimately now everybody's just waiting for more information, and hopefully positive information, about Damar Hamlin moving forward. I think that's pretty clear that is where we all are at this point.